So we should be, we're live. We're live with Real Fridays. So Robbie, just to give you kind of some context. So I'm sure you've seen the show in the past. If you haven't, it was founded by Jeremy Potter, myself, and Brock Cassidy. And the focus was really Real Friday. So as we just talked about real talk, real mortgage talk, insider information, if you will, kind of like feet on the ground, insights on where the industry was heading, and just sort of insights on tech and innovation and everything else, and sort of what's driving the business, right? And so
I don't have insights for you, but we can keep it real, and because we're live, baby. And since you told me I look like Muammar Gaddafi before we started this, shout out to my stylist. I'm gonna tell you, you look like Bill O'Reilly, and he had the famous "F it, let's do it live." So I don't know what I'm in for.
Yeah, let's just do it live. Let's just do it live.
And the last time I saw this show, I was in Jeremy Potter's kitchen in Detroit last summer, and I walked in as like a background person, and
so
all right.
So okay, finally, so I think there is an eerie similarity between the two, and I've never seen you both in the same room, so it's not to say it's totally far off.
Yeah, not bad. That's not bad, actually. Yeah. I'm gonna put it on my dating profiles. Looks like Muammar Gaddafi. I've been told I look like a head of a Middle Eastern country.
In America's most watched real estate, mortgage, and housing sort of podcast. So, and we've been that way since the first day of our episode. So we've been doing this for about 3 years.
You've been the most watched since the first episode.
Since the first episode, we did that. Yeah, we declared that because we took over 3 categories all at once. So some people are just real estate, some are mortgage, some are housing. We just took over all 3, and we declared ourselves the victor because we are the first. So
this is kind of like I learned a New York Times best-selling author actually means within whatever category, not overall book. So you could be you could be the head seller of the underwater basket weaving category in the transgender Peruvian community, and boom.
The irony, it's funny. Somebody had launched a book, and they said we were an Amazon bestseller, a New York Times bestseller. In the category, as you dive into it, was specifically like mortgage, underwriting, workflow. Like it just got more and more narrow. And I thought, like, I got
to tell you,
great.
I'm honored to be here. I very much appreciate you inviting me. Like I said, very little insights, maybe a lot of smiles, a lot of hair.
Are you in another part of my cabin somewhere? Like
yeah, it does look eerily similar. You hear footsteps in the background. Don't look over your shoulder.
So what state are you in right now?
I am in. Gosh, I hope my IRS agent's not watching this. I'm in the state of California.
Yeah,
so I'm a Nevada resident, and I split my time between.
So you're on a business trip.
I have an apartment in New York City that I like to stay in, Charlie spring and fall. Then I was on the road last year. People say my dad travels a lot. I'm starting to pick up a little steam with my travels, and I think I took something like 90 flights and was on the road for 200 plus days last year. So
are you a Marriott guy or a Hilton guy? Or what's your hotel?
I have to tell you, and this is my first flex of the show. I have 0 hotel rewards programs, and I have 0 frequent flyer accounts because, actually, now that I think about what I was going to say, it's illogical. But
why would you not do that? Because don't you want the benefits of frequently flying a specific,
I like just rolling the dice and being in boarding group 7 and let the chips fall where they may, in the words of Chauncey Billups.
So one of the viewers of the show, one of the thousands, is your IRS agent who's watching this right now. But you're on a business trip in California, and you're based in Nevada, so you're good.
Yeah.
Where
is this your primary residence where you are in this cabin, or this is an Airbnb, or what is this?
No, this is a lake house that I bought. So when I got divorced in December of 2017, and it was a lake house that my grandfather built in like 1920. And so I bought it in 2017. Had over a certain period of time just sort of renovated it, And it's amazing. It's like heaven on earth up here, just minus the bad weather and the snow. And but it's just gorgeous. It's right on a lake, and it's been in the family for a long time. But it is a classic example of there's only so many properties around the state of Massachusetts. It's right on the water. The property's probably worth 300 grand or whatever. It's not like a super luxurious property, 3-bedroom, maybe 300 square feet, 1350. And people will call randomly, people from Boston or from larger city markets and say, like, look, we're looking for a place on the lake. We'll give you 400, we'll give you 500, we'll give you 550, we'll give you 600,000. And it's been in the family 100 years. So it's like, there's too many relatives that would haunt me for selling this place, and my kids love it.
Cool, man. I'll do you one worse, better, worse.
Yeah.
I'll do you one worse. My stepmom apparently has listed my phone number on a bunch of her properties that she owns. And so I get spam texts all the time. Hey, we're looking to buy your property, this vacant lot. We're trying to buy this vacant. I'm like, how did you get my number? How's it involved with it? My plumber just came by. We're doing this live. I told him to get out of here. I'm in the middle of a 3 remodel here. And I was thinking, actually, on one of my bike rides the other day, how cool, I think cool is the wrong word, would it be to do a show like MTV Cribs, but in the mortgage industry, of like, take me inside Rick Rock's secret lair,
Yeah.
Oh, Robbie's apartment in New York, whatever. And we could, here's my 1992 Toyota Camry that has 200,000 miles, like life and times of a mortgage banker sort of thing. So
yeah, what's funny is I've often thought about that, having like that kind of Bravo, kind of real mortgage banker housewives kind of show, but there's just, and there would be plenty of drama.
And you're engaged, right? So we could get your lady on there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, there'd be plenty of drama to showcase on that.
I'm sure, Rick. I'm sure.
So the question I have. Do you even know how I got to know Rob?
No. You piqued my interest though.
So years ago.
Wait, can I say something? You've always been very, very good to us. I really appreciate the work we've done with you. You've always been good at signing up clients for advertising with us. You've always been very respectful to me. I very much appreciate the relationship we have with you. So thank you sincerely.
Yeah, no, look, Rob's been, he's a good sort of academic, and he's a good capital markets guy, a good connector, fun. But I met him when he was at RPM back in like 08, 09 time frame. And I remember meeting with him. I was an executive at Calyx at the time, running sales and marketing and business development. And I was speaking at, 50, 60 conferences a year. At the time we were 60, 70% of all the loan flow was touching point at some point in time. And so I'm trying to think. So basically he called me because he wanted to launch this publication, right? He wanted to launch this blog, as he called it. And so
you can't do it without the blessing of Rick Rock. I'm with you. I'm following you.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that, but I at the time I had the largest private database of loan officers in the industry, right? So I had amassed through my time at Calyx and my work with Ellie Mae shortly thereafter, like I had amassed this large database that I had in Salesforce, and he wanted to partner up to use the database to kind of get his news blog out to all these people. And I was using it for like acquisitions and M&A and recruiting purposes and that kind of thing. So we met at a pizza shop in Berkeley. Okay.
It's probably Zachary's that does deep dish, which Dave Portnoy just rated it like an 8.1 or 8.2 on his pizza review.
Which is massive,
especially for deep dish. And I will stand by saying Zachary's is some of my favorite pizza. And
he doesn't. What's funny is Dave doesn't like. He's a Boston guy, and he doesn't like deep dish. Typically, it's but so I think it may have been Zachary's, actually, a little corner stop, a little corner place.
Yep.
And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is the dumbest idea. Like, you want to do this thing called the Chrisman report, and it's a blog on capital markets and warehouse and investor updates. I'm like, this is the dumbest idea. No one is going to read this blog, Rob. Like, don't waste your time. It's a bad idea, right? And so I didn't help him. I just was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to, and we talked about doing, we talked about doing Rick and Rob. We talked about different ideas, different renditions of like the Chrisman report, like the Rick and Rob report or something like that. And I kind of blew him off, so and so despite of my rejection, it has been really an industry pillar, for, news, communications, recruiting, employment, and just, updates.
I'll say something quickly on that. What my dad has built has been incredibly consistent and incredibly authentic. And it's grown to be respected. And the reach of it never ceases to amaze me. And so I view myself as a steward, a good steward, to keep that going. Our core mission being bring value to the industry, bring awareness and insight and good commentary. And so we've expanded a little bit here, but to his credit, the reaches of it never cease to amaze me. I'll give you two quick examples. One is last year at MBA Advocacy, and maybe people have heard me say this story before, Elizabeth Warren came and spoke, and she was scheduled for 30 minutes, and she spoke for about 8 and then tried to leave. And people were like, don't you want to take a couple questions? She took a couple from the people of Massachusetts, and then she left, and it was like 12. And so I wrote about it the next day, and I heard people got back to me and said, we heard Elizabeth Warren's aides on the Congress hallway, in the Congress hallways, being like, oh my God, did you see this negative press in the Chrisman report? So I was amazed there. And then secondly, I'm pretty close with the guys at Figure. I used to work with them at SoFi, and they announced a funding facility with 6th Street this past year, $200 million, something like that. And there was an exclusive that Bloomberg had. And I got the Eastern versus Pacific times messed up, and we released it about an hour before it was supposed to go live to Bloomberg. Well, Wall Street Journal picked it up from us and ran it and gazumped Bloomberg, and Bloomberg was not happy about that at all. So just the reach that he's been able to gain is great. And I'll say one more cynical thing, just because it's a Friday and I'm on one, I guess. There's a whole echo chamber of LinkedIn all-stars. They love to, oh, you're so great. Oh, listen to my, blah, 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 blah. He barely has a LinkedIn. But on top of that, his circle is CEOs of these big companies. You want to talk Matt Ishbia and David Spector and Mike Cagney and Bill Cosgrove, and like these guys, these big industry titans. That's who he runs with. And so I don't think he knows even what goes on in the LinkedIn talkosphere or whatever. So, which is kind of cool. Second flex of the day, maybe more authentic flex than me not having frequent flyer miles. But
do you even have a LinkedIn profile? I was gonna say I tried to look you up, and you don't have a LinkedIn profile.
Don't worry, our friend Bree Lees is who's we brought on as a CMO, and she's been phenomenal as trying to get me on LinkedIn. Maybe for Christmas this year, Bree, I'll do it. And actually, I should say, since I brought it up, we've been able to start this thought leadership section in the expansion of Chrisman as one of these pillars. She published an article on our site this week about women in mortgage banking, which was well overdue, and it has received a ton of praise. And I just want to applaud her for being brave and writing a really good article. We have a bunch of other stuff on there too. Some of the CEOs I just mentioned write for us. Some really, really good insights from all different types of mortgage industry. So check out Chrisman commentary in the thought leadership section there.
Yeah, what's interesting is I remember, and I credit Bree with the article that she wrote. It's a very difficult conversation for anyone to have. It's a difficult conversation for men to hear, and it's a difficult conversation for women to talk about in any public kind of forum, because it's always a scenario of what women sort of have to the perception of what women have to tolerate, in this business, because on one hand you don't want to be the person that always brings attention to it, and yet you don't want to be the person that sort of ignores it. And so I thought it was a really brilliant and provocative sort of story.
I'll say this on her behalf quickly.
Yeah.
And that is, Bree is a brilliant marketer. She's our CMO for all intents and purposes. And I've spoken to her about this. She does not want to be known as the face of this movement of mortgage Me Too or whatever. Her specialty is marketing, and she deserves to be recognized as a brilliant marketer. This is just long overdue, and it's kind of a shame that nobody else has brought it to the fore. Like, yeah, so.
It's hard because nobody wants to be the face, like you said, no one wants to be the face of it. Number one, and number two, it's a conversation, that I've had with HousingWire, with Inside Mortgage Finance, with Wall Street Journal on the subject, and they just don't. It's hard to find sources that want to come public. It's hard to find, men who want to sort of talk about the subject. And it is challenging. And I remember I wanted to share with Bree the story that I remember back in I used to be managing editor of a publication called the Niche Report. And I wrote this article back and it was the largest publication at the time in mortgage and in later mortgage compliance. And but for mortgage and real estate, it went to, however many tens of thousands of people. And and I wrote this article called the hidden racism in underwriting. And I just talked about how this one particular story, I think this was in 2015, actually, I wanted to get this particular lender out of Michigan, licensed in the state of Massachusetts. And they basically said, well, Rick, there's just too many CRA requirements in the state of Massachusetts. We don't want to lend in Massachusetts. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they were like, well, there's just, and I was like, well, I don't understand. Like, we'd have to do sort of urban lending. And I'm like, well, what's urban? What do you mean? Like, what urban lending? And they were like, well, I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, just say the quiet thing out loud. And finally the CEO was like, these Black families and these Latinos, like, they don't pay their bills on time and they don't have jobs. And it just sort of laid this out. And I'm like, this is sort of the CEO of the company who was CFO, went to become CEO and started articulating a message across underwriting that basically he didn't want Black and brown sort of Latino, like the Black and brown community loans. So the whole LMI piece, forget it. He just wanted to be sort of a vanilla lender. And I've always been, my family lived in Puerto Rico for 10 years and moved to the United States. I was born in Syracuse, but several of my siblings were born in Puerto Rico. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I don't get it. Number one, FHA business is the thickest margin business we can do, and number two, as members of where we had our Fannie, Freddie, and our Ginnie, there is a public trust associated to having the good faith and trust of the United States behind you in buying these loans, because there's a purpose. There's an actual architectural design to drive home ownership, to guarantee these loans, because otherwise you get a scenario where who doesn't want the cleanest loans on your books, right? So long story short, I got a phone call from a very prominent CEO in the business, and the guy said, Rick, if you ever really want to work in this business, don't write another article like that, and it was very, and I was, I'm kind of a lot like Bree, where I'm just like, F you, like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the hill I'm going to die on, right? I'm going to take this right, and I'm going to keep writing about it, and I'm going to keep after it. But it was shocking to me to be that kind of, to be targeted in such a way where someone was like, look, don't call us a bunch of racists. And I'm like, look, I'm not calling everyone a bunch of racists. What I'm trying to say is, like, if you're afraid of doing Black and brown loans, I'm not calling you a racist, but I think there's racial undertones to that kind of attitude that need to be understood and need to be reflected upon, because there are plenty of Black borrowers that are paying their bills. And there's plenty of Latino borrowers that, in fact, Latino homeownership and the default rates are relatively low because homeownership means that much, within the cultural community. So it was just one of those things. So a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts kind of went through my head.
Yeah, I mean, does it? And I can answer this too. Does it make you think about the way you're perceived or your own behavior, just being that much more aware of the ways?
Well, 100%. Things that I've done wrong, things that I probably wasn't quite as sensitive to, and things that and opportunities that I could have taken advantage of that I didn't. Right, and showcasing good female thought leadership in the business. I've always thought that that women in the business really should have other female mentors in the business, because there are incredibly successful women in this business that have carved an incredible path and arguably potentially a much harder path over the last 30 years in this business. And they've been very, very successful, and I think that those women, deserve a lot of recognition, but two, they want to help out younger women in their 20s and their 30s and in their 40s who are trying to establish a professional foundation in this business, which is, typically white and typically male,
So since this is live, for people just tuning in, just to catch people up to speed, Rick is the reason that the Chrisman commentary letter got legs. And then we've also solved the problem of sexism in mortgage banking. So good episode so far, man. How long do these go? I got no background on these. So 30 minutes, 45, what are we doing?
Exactly. Well, exactly. No, look, I think that I'm not the reason for the Chrisman commentary. However, I probably could have had a stake in it. I could have had a royalty or some kind of piece of it. And
yeah, actually, you know what's ironic? I guess I'm putting everyone on blast here. Your business partner at NFM, Mr. Scher, who is one of the people on LinkedIn, I'm told, since I don't have one. He's met with us a couple of times, and he keeps saying, I want an ownership stake in Chrisman, and we're going, what? We don't even. There's no ownership to be had in Chrisman. Like, Rob owns it. I'm a W-2 employee. We just kind of struggle. It's not like it's a company that you can buy into or anything.
If there's anyone that gets a stake in it, it's got to be me. There's got to be some kind of.
You tell Greg that, please.
I might be the number one sales rep for the Chrisman Report over the years.
As I say, you've been great. I really appreciate the relationship.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't effective. Number one, obviously, and then number two, and as Rob would say, I always push the boundaries of what the Chrisman Report was really set up to do. And I used to do these instead of doing these like advertisements, like now what's an advertisement and what's not. And I think early on when Rob started to do that, I started structuring my ads in a way where Rob was interviewing me. And so Rob would say this, and then I would say this, and I would say this, and it would all be about a specific company who's looking to grow, acquire companies, and it was done in the kind of interview format. And it was always confusing to the readers, like, is it an advertisement? Like, what is it? And and then it started to evolve into like, well, how do we structure it? But the Chrisman commentary has never been without its controversy, right? People have been offended by his jokes and these types of things, and I've always felt that it's always been a good source of levity, and also serious content that's an industry that's watched really carefully daily. In the industry, how big is your subscription base? Like, is that public? Can you articulate that or what?
I'll get to that one second. I promise. I'll answer that. So there's been controversy within Chrisman. It was a struggle for me to even get headings bolded between the sections. And then it was a struggle to get a little logo at the top. And it was a struggle to get it to change from looking like an old Yellow Pages ad to now just a white and black thing. It used to have different colors around the borders. Mondays were teal, Tuesdays were aquamarine, Wednesdays were opal. Like it was a whole thing. And so we've modernized it a lot. And actually we're going to roll out a brand new website here in a couple of weeks that we're very, very excited about. It looks slick. It does it justice. And so there's been incremental improvements. I would say the reach somewhere toward the low six figures, put it like that.
Yeah. The low six figures. So
all right, I'll flex a little bit again. Our open rate ranges from 50 to 60%. That's 50 to 60, not 15 to 16.
No, it's shocking.
Our click rate gets up to 15 to 20%, depending on. Normally, it has to do with the job ads, and we actually have a dedicated job board on Chrisman if people are looking for employment or employers want to post there. But the click rate itself gets up toward 20%, which I've dealt with marketing groups in the past when I worked on companies in the capital markets, secondary marketing side of things, and they were happy when they got a 14 or 15% open rate. And I'm going, that's our click-through rate for us. So the reach is incredible. And credit to my dad for doing it. Credit to Bree for helping spin it up into the 21st century. It's been really neat.
You guys have always been kind of the drudge report of commentary, right? So because it's always been, not very creative in its design, but it's because it's been so content rich, right? Its priority has been content. It's not been to make it look pretty, right?
I appreciate the backhanded compliment. Yeah.
No. It's not backhanded at all. I think it was just
here's what's going on. Plain and simple. Here's the news, and we're trying to. I guess I'll put my dad on blast too, since I put everybody else on. He started to talk more and more about Trump this last year, and I'm going, hey man, we are a news outlet. We don't need to be having people know political orientation one way.
Let's not talk about the central figure in the news.
Well, there's a way to do it. That's here's what happened, and there's a way to do it of I can clearly see you're for this person, or I can clearly see you're against this person, and I don't think it's our place to tell you if we're for or against. I'm just here to state what's going on and the impact on markets.
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
So you've talked a little bit about what you're doing with it, like because the reach is massive. It's real estate, it's investors, and I do a lot of investment, or consulting with investment banks in New York and San Francisco, and they all subscribe to the Chrisman report because I encourage it. I'm very public about it. So what would sure. Where are you going with it?
So the commentary itself, the report, the daily email launched back in 2008 or so. The podcast, our daily podcast, launched 2021. It's daily. So I think we're at like 1,300 episodes now, which is crazy. I hand edit every interview. And so the commentary, then it was, hey, I want an audio version. And then we said to ourselves, how do we get the next generation of brokers and originators, production staff, capital markets folks to realize the value of this? And granted, some people are very good, like Matt Ishbia at UWM will tell every new employee sign up for Chrisman, that sort of thing. But for us, it's how do we reach people where they are, whether that's, so I've tried to partner with people in terms of, we have the thought leadership I mentioned. We've launched video shows to have a new form of media where we brought in industry personalities onto those shows to help reach their audiences. So beyond doing video shows, beyond doing more writing and bringing people kind of under the umbrella, we've also we've had for forever our job listings. We brought our job board in-house. So now we have the largest dedicated mortgage industry job board out there where jobs are posted every day. People can search for jobs. My dad has said for a long time, it's his goal, like in a utopian fantasy, to place 10% of all people in mortgage into their current roles through us. So that's a nice altruistic thing.
That's incredible.
And then beyond that, we've, excuse me, I've had pneumonia these last couple of weeks. You see me coughing or
yeah, that sounds terrible.
Oh well, I normally sound terrible now, just a little more. And then we launched this last year.
Now you look terrible and you sound terrible. I'm jealous. I love the.
Well, you do have good hair too. So, anyways, we launched Chrisman Marketplace, and that was marketplaces have been tried before, but our thought was we are a very unbiased party. It's not like we're MBA that only has members or ICE that only has people that use ICE in terms of their market. But we are an unbiased place for people to go and see who's out there. We don't play favorites. We've had companies say, can we be the only LOS that sponsors Chrisman? We say, no, we're open to everybody. So we launched that. It's meant to be an interconnected web of if you want to build a tech stack, but also a running PR feed for companies. If you do a white paper, if you put out a case study, if you have a press release, if you do a video show or a podcast, that all lives on the profile pages. So it's not only a one-page PDF of what does this company do? It's also how do they interact with other companies and what's the latest and greatest from them. So that continues to gain momentum. I think we have nearly 150 companies on there across the mortgage ecosystem. It's going to be even better when we relaunch our website here. And then on top of that, we've built with our video shows this beautiful infrastructure of a network kind of with being able to promote and create and disseminate. And so we're working on launching Chrisman Studios, which will be another silo of Chrisman. That's basically, there's all these people out there that want to do their own shows or podcasts kind of like this. Well, let us put our infrastructure to work for you in terms of being able to make promotional materials, being able to disseminate, being able to clip it, being able to get it up to socials and kind of the background behind it. And we have our Chrisman shows. We have 8 shows. We're about to launch 4 new ones on marketing, servicing, credit, and AI, which is very exciting. Those will be coming on Wednesdays, live shows. And we now are going to kind of white label our services to be able to go out there. So building an empire slowly but surely and trying not to
And so
go quickly.
Do you look at like HousingWire as a competitor?
That's an interesting question. They're a competitor purely in the sense of companies have certain advertising budgets.
Yeah.
And there's only so much spend out there, and we're trying to get some and they're trying to get some. So sure, but they're doing completely different things. And I mean that as we are. So no, I don't want to throw too much shade.
Are you more commentary? I'd like to think news, like news commentary, and you're more.
So, yeah, so research? They are a little more like if we bomb the Middle East, I go to CNN.com and I see what happened. If something happens in the mortgage industry, I'll go to HousingWire and look at like their little news feed or whatever. Chrisman is meant to be a little more esteemed commentary, like the Wall Street Journal to their CNN. Yeah, is my thought. Like the Wall Street Journal and CNN could be kind of, but not really. It's a different type of audience base, and so we're looking for that more in-depth analysis, a little more highbrow, a little more in-depth, a little more analysis, those sorts of things, commentary. And so we're working to kind of differentiate in that way, because people say, oh, you're competing with HousingWire. I'm going, no, HousingWire, someone pays, I think a thought leadership article is like $20,000. We've never charged anybody to place a thought leadership article. If you meet our editorial guidelines, we think it's good, submit it and we'll post it. And the last thing I want to be seen for, especially considering the roots of Chrisman, is paid to play. Obviously, people place ads and that sort of thing. But in terms of being able to have your voice heard, or for us to give you a spotlight in other ways, I don't want people to think it's, let me write a check and then I'm in with the Chrisman people. It's very much earned media with us. And so I think that's a big differentiator there. People can disagree, but that's my take.
No, I think that's a good way of saying it. I do think that there's a complementarity between what they're aiming to do and what you're doing. And given your reach, I don't know why they wouldn't acquire you or acquire the Chrisman commentary by HousingWire or something like that. Like, why would you be open to something like that?
Well, so it's so funny you asked that. Dave Savage sat me down at Mortgage Innovators a couple years ago, and he said the same thing, and I haven't spoken with him since. So this was nice talking to you. It's a valid question, and what I would answer that with is,
it just shows your value. It shows your granular value.
I'm not too offended. Don't worry. So my thought is, I'm not building this to sell it. I'm building this to build it and have it and be this very valuable thing. And I was going to say, maybe it weans off some advertising dollars from HousingWire in the process, but my goal isn't to build it to sell it. And the last thing I want private equity to come in and tell us what to do or give me some golden handcuffs so then I'm beholden to something else. Like, I love the space that we occupy. I love the freedom. My dad makes a good living. I have a nice little cabin, and so we're doing all right, and we like what we do, and so there's no intent to sell out. We receive calls from private equity firms, and it's kind of like, not now. Maybe talk to me in 30 or 40 years if I'm ready to retire, but no time soon.
Yeah, I think the question is just a function of because people do deals for different reasons, and sometimes the strategic direction, products. I could see, like a platform to share industry white papers, an environment where real hardcore research in real, like when somebody says, hey, SnapDocs is a great company, for instance. I'm a big fan of it, and they and they talk about, they'll do a white paper and say, like, we lower the cost to close loan this amount of dollars. We'll do something, where you can pick up an extra 15 or 20 basis points in your investor delivery because the cleanliness of files, of getting rid of like errors and omissions, whatever, right? But like beyond the marketing talking points, where's the data? Like a repository where you can upload industry data across, verticals and technology platforms, so that people who are looking to make buying decisions have a one stop where you can actually see, like, here's some research and the actual data. Richie May, it's an accounting firm, right? But they have one of the best data aggregations, right? Because they have a tool that can extract, non-disclosed who it's coming from, but industry data that gets pulled from lenders that are using from an accounting standpoint, their accounting services. And it's really valuable to be able to log in and be like, shoot, am I spending too much money in marketing? Am I spending too much on LO comp? What's my product mix should be in relation to this stuff, So I do think that as an industry connector, you guys have a lot of directions and a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and it's tough too. We get approached with people with great ideas, like the one you just said, and they want to part of it. And I'm going, we're already so busy with expanding the stuff, with launching a new website and making sure it's great with all the different offerings we have. I don't have time to start. So I'm trying to really hone in on the things that we're doing now before continuing to just proliferate what we built. I'm trying to do it thoughtfully and methodically. And like I said, be a good steward of what my dad has built. And sure, there's demand for industry awards, or maybe there's demand for a executive conference, or I don't know, whatever it is. And we're going, or maybe there's demand for merch. People want merch, but we have slowly type things versus just let's do it, and then you haven't thought it out, and suddenly you're in a bit of a quagmire.
Well, this is actually, I put together a list of every single mortgage conference in the country,
Cool.
right? And this is where we're at now. We just had the New Jersey MBA, and this is everyone that I think exists. And there's
hey, real quick, we run an industry event email every single Monday, and we have an industry event calendar on our website for people looking for just this type of thing. So
I did not know that. So
you're not subscribed to our industry events. Are you subscribed to our daily email?
I do get daily emails,
Right.
from you guys. But so
industry events on Mondays. We put out a thing every week with all the webinars that we hear about, with all the
interesting. Okay.
Coming up. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you access to this to see if there's ones that I'm missing, because I have a dozen people or 15 or so executives that connect us, because there wasn't a central repository of conferences that I could find around the country. And I was going to say, please don't add a Chrisman conference.
You got it. There's not coming anytime soon. Trust me.
Please don't, because it's the last thing we need is an 83rd conference across the country when we look at all the broker conferences and all the lender conferences, state conferences, association.
Well, here, can I do this? Can I share my screen briefly? How do I?
I don't know if you can. Can you?
Oh, wait. Share screen. Share screen. See if I can do this. This. Okay, so you can see this now. This is our email comes out. Hey, here's just a little summary of what's going on. Here's all the industry events this week in terms of conferences. Here's webinars. Here's our video shows this week. Here's what's going on the podcast. Simple email. And we think it provides value. Hey, here's all the conferences you want to sign up. Click it. Here's all the links to all these webinars coming up. So let me know.
No, do you have a board of advisors, or do you have a handful of people that?
Yeah, it's my dad and his cat Myrtle, and they to each other. And I mean, it's a pretty serious answer. There's not really a board of advisors. So are you recommending that? Because it's good. I mean, we might exist in an echo chamber and we think something's good, but we're missing the boat on. So I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's always good to get sort of feedback and have a handful of advisors that
we hear about the jokes we publish all the time. So we're getting feedback left and right.
Well, that's great. Well, no, look, I've appreciated, the conversation. I think that what conference are you going to next? Are you going to be at the gathering?
Well, come on. I told you at the start. I took 90 flights. I've really tried to scale it back this year. I think my next conference, excuse me, is secondary in New York.
Oh wow! So you're not going to go to the MBA Texas, or?
I was scheduled to go to Mortgage Innovators and MBA Texas and all that, and I cleared it because I got burned out a little bit. And then on top of that, my dad is traveling he's traveling internationally a couple times coming up in April and May, and so I'm trying to be in one place.
Invited me to the advocacy. Bree invited me to the advocacy conference, and so I know I'm going to the advocacy conference April 14, 15, 16 timeframe. I was supposed to go to that. Kristen Messerly invited me, and I said, yeah.
So I have to, like I was about to say, I have to write the commentary in its entirety for a good chunk of April and May because my dad's offline, and so trying to kind of.
So you'll be up releasing at 4 a.m.
I am up at 4 a.m. regardless to do the podcast and write the capital markets every day, and I am upset when he leaves because I then have to wake up early on Saturdays as well. I'm like, we really have to put out a Saturday thing at 5:30. So that's what I have to look forward to coming up.
Well, to your point, when we started the podcast, I think that one of the strengths has been the consistency. It's the content and combined with the consistency. It's one thing to throw something out once a week or whatever the case may be, but to be able to do it every single day, you're like the paper boy, that that your dad and I probably both grew up with. I always tell people that, I told your dad this once too, that, can you hear me? Oh, did you jump on a call?
I'm going to mute you blowing this. My dad had a paper route growing up, and my grandpa actually delivered papers during the Great Recession in San Francisco. So it is part of our lineage for sure.
No, like I had a paper route, growing up myself. And I was telling your dad that in fact, I was telling this AI company, you should see this post that I did. Well, you're not on LinkedIn, never mind. But this 25-year-old grad from Princeton, founder of a company called Copperline AI, texted me last night, and I just sort of FaceTimed him out of the blue. 25 years old, raised $3-4 million. He's from Princeton. Great ideas, wants to conquer the world as a really good solution. And we sort of talked about it. And I told him, I said, look, I'm in this weird spot, right? Because I'm sort of young when it comes to the old guard in the business, and I'm kind of old when it comes to the young guard in the business. And I just said that the key with in this business is to try to sort of establish relationships on both sides of that fence. But the paper route comment kind of sort of reminded me of that.
Well, I think you're kind of winding down here. I'm honored and humbled that you invited me, and I very much appreciate it. And I really enjoyed this.
No, look,
there's more. We can go for another hour, Rick. You tell me.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to conclude. I wanted to conclude. No, you got to put the hat back on. It's the hat. Memes
and mortgage banking. This could be the first meme of mortgage banking we could.
Well, look, I appreciate it. And you and I really haven't talked all that much. We've only talked a couple of times. This is like the most in-depth conversation we've ever had. And I think Jeremy Potter has gotten in the way of our relationship.
I agree. Well, actually, I saw you on a plane as I was leaving IMB. You were up in first class, and I had to go way back to row 27 or something, so I don't have frequent flyers. So there was an missed opportunity there for sure.
Well, I look forward to seeing you around, and I appreciate the time on this, and I'll give you the analytics in the weeks ahead. If you want the full copy of this interview, I can certainly get it to you. You could use it in your own social media marketing that Bree could possibly use.
Fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Good deal. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah.